Welcome back everyone, and it is now time to switch gears back to Modern Warfare. Now I had a blast playing the Cold War Alpha and it was a nice change of pace, but we have to wait until October now for our next small taste of the game before launch. Anyway, as you've probably seen from the title of this video, I wanted to cover some more shotgun content for Warzone in particular, and in this one we're going to be taking a look at 3 of the 5 shotguns available in the game, because those 3 are the ones that feature Dragon's Breath as an attachment. If you didn't know, as a quick recap, Dragon's Breath is probably one of the best attachments you can use for a shotgun in Warzone because it adds to your base damage, unlike how it functions multiplayer, where you basically trade some damage for a burn over time that deals about the same damage as buckshot generally. In Warzone, it functions just like additional damage, so it's always a great attachment to use. A few weeks ago, we were introduced to the R90 with Dragon's Breath, and in multiplayer, it is a strong shotgun with an awesome one-shot and two-shot range. And in Warzone, people have been losing their minds over it and claiming that it's overpowered or that it's just too strong. Now, it's strong, but I'm telling you guys, it's not overpowered and it's not going to be shifting the meta anytime soon. Shotguns just can't compete well in Warzone generally because of the engagements you find yourself in most of the time, and because of late game, you have to be pushing really hard if you want to score a win with that shotgun. It's just a better idea to use an SMG or an AR if you really want the most versatility. So what we're going to look at is each of these Dragon's Breath shotguns, compare some time to kill values and range and all that good stuff, and we're going to see which one is generally the best to use and if the others are going to be even worth running. In order to calculate our time to kill, we need to know the base rate of fire for each shotgun. The Model 680, the slowest of them all, has a rate of fire of around 80 rounds per minute, which is painfully slow. The Rogue has a decent and consistent fire rate, clocked in at around 135 rounds per minute, and then the R90 is kind of unique, but it features a quick 2-shot burst that fires at roughly 300 rounds per minute, then a delay of about 500-ish milliseconds between each burst. So we have the rate of fire, but how many shots to kill is it with each one? Well, in their max damage ranges, it'll take about 2 shots to kill a fully armored player, so with this in mind, let's take a look at the time to kills. As you can see, the Model 680 is just chugging along slowly with a time to kill of 750 milliseconds. That is painfully slow again, and don't let this fool you though into thinking that this is a bad shotgun to use at all, and we'll go over that later in this video, so stay tuned for that. The Rogue can kill in about 444 milliseconds, which is a step up, but still lacking compared to many other weapons in the game. Then the R90 with its 2-tap burst can down someone in about 200 milliseconds, which is extremely fast and very deadly at close range. That 2-tap can really ruin people's days, and even with the delay, it's still faster than the other 2 shotguns. Based off of these numbers alone, really the top tier choice to use here is going to be the R90. With its insane damage output up close and those 2 quick shots, even with the delay, it's still much better to use over the other 2 shotguns in this max damage range. The damage they all do is basically the same, and it's about 230-ish points of damage, so it takes all the armor and a chunk of people's health away. So for the Model 680, the max damage range is actually the highest in the bunch, which extends to about 3.9 meters with no attachments. The Rogue is just behind this at 3.6 meters, and then the R90 is the lowest at 3.2 meters. Sounds about right, but what gets weird is when we look at the range where we can one-shot break someone's armor. So this range I'm talking about is the max range where you can one-shot and fully break 3 plates of armor with some health taken as well. For the Model 680, it's about 8.2 meters, for the Rogue it's about 6.7 meters, and then for the R90, it actually had an 8.3 meter range for taking off people's armor in one shot. For whatever reason, it's basically a smidge better than the 680, and I really have no clue why. And this is only with one shot, mind you, so the R90 is still extremely strong at this range and can really 2-tap people really fast at this range as well, so long as most pellets hit. One shot can do about 170 points of damage here, and players only have 250 max health in Warzone with full armor. Of course, this may be easier said than done against moving players and depending on your pellet spread. So based off of all this information so far, why would anyone bother using anything but the R90 now? It has a great 2-tap range, it has great time to kill even with that extra 500 millisecond delay between bursts, and it has a decently tight spread for longer distance shots with the right attachments. The R90 is definitely the strongest of the the Dragon's Breath shotguns in Warzone now. It just is, at least in most scenarios you'd find yourself in. Now what I want to do now is talk about the R90 and the Model 680 together. The 680 right now is probably looking pretty terrible to you guys, and rightfully so. The stats are just kind of bad. I mean, lots of other things can easily do a much better job of taking out enemies. And while I agree with the idea that the R90 is better in most cases, I can't underplay that the 680 is actually a very deadly shotgun in the right hands with Dragon's Breath, which means you have to know how to use it, and you shouldn't overlook it just because of these stats, and let's go into why now. First off, we just looked at the base stats, meaning we had no range attachments equipped, and these values were based on nothing but the gun equipped with just Dragon's Breath. If we look at the R90 and the Model 680 with the best range increasing attachments, you'll notice that the 680 makes a little bit of a comeback here. The R90 with the Tac Sentry barrel and the choke will give the R90 its best range possible, along with a better and tighter pellet spread than what it normally has. Its max damage range goes up from 3.2 meters to 3.9 meters. This is a 22% increase in range. The Model 680 gets its best ranges from using the Marauder suppressor and the Sport barrel, which take its max damage range up to 5.3 meters, up from the standard 3.9. This is a 36% increase in range. So what gives? Why is that important? Well, to state the obvious, the 680 with its attachments gets a better boost at ranges than the R90 does. So if we apply that percentage increase to our armor breaking range, the R90 goes up from 8.3 meters to 10.1 meters, and the 680 goes from 8.2 to 11.2. The Model 680 with its range increasing attachments gives us more range than the R90 with its attachments. Not only this, but with the choke, for example, you'd be getting more range along with a tighter pellet spread. This shows us that the Model 680 can actually perform better at ranges than the R90 if you kit it out. Of course, does that make the 680 just better than the R90? I'd have to say no, it really still doesn't, because the 680 is just going to be much less forgiving than the R90 in the shotgun range. But the point of this comparison is to remind you guys not to sleep on the 680 with Dragon's Breath, but you must know how to use it. YouTubers will just compare the time to kill of guns and base everything solely on that, but the way you play with a gun is just as important in making the gun work. With the 680, you'll be able to hit targets further away with a better, tighter spread and carry that damage further than the R90. The way you have to play with this gun is going to be very much so a game of cat and mouse, which, if you've seen my last video on the shotgun in Cold War, you'll know you can make a very trash tier shotgun work quite well if you adjust your playstyle accordingly. By the way, go watch that video if you want a good example of what I mean when I say cat and mouse gameplay. So while the R90 is the king of Dragon's Breath shotguns in many ways, do not overlook the 680. If you are weaving in and out of cover and hitting your shots accurately, this gun will do some damage and it will catch unsuspecting players off guard with how strong it can be with Dragon's Breath on. But in most shotgun scenarios, that shotgun range where you run face to face with someone really close in the open or something, you probably want to stick with the R90 or even the Rogue, which is also still a good shotgun, but it still doesn't have the range that the Model 680 does. So to really drive the points home, yes, the R90 is probably the best Dragon's Breath shotgun in Warzone to run in most of your close range engagements, but the 680 is not to be overlooked because of its apparently weaker stats, with the idea that you have to know how to use the gun properly to truly unlock its full potential, and this can make it a difficult yet rewarding shotgun to use in Warzone. I promise you guys, don't rely so much just on the stats, but you have to take into account how you play with the gun, and with the 680 that's especially true, so you really have to adjust your playstyle accordingly when you use this gun. And that is it for this video. Hopefully you all learned something new, and if not, hopefully I entertained you for at least a little bit. If you want more Call of Duty guides, shotgun content, and more fun videos, be sure to subscribe for more and follow me on Twitter and Twitch, which I hopefully will start streaming on soon. And with all that being said and out of the way, I want to wish you all a happy day/night, and I will see you in the next video.